Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of Pealed Back's LiveCast Conversations with series. Today, I get to have a friend of mine, Dr. Francis Mbunya, on. We're going to be talking about the path to being able to write your own book and his services, and we get to learn a little bit about his journey on how he's learned how sharing your story is so important in overcoming a lot of the challenges we see in this world. So, Francis, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you very much, Dan, for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here to share about my journey and most importantly, to share about how others could also turn their own journey into, I call it, a profitable book.
Yeah. I think that's a question a lot of people have, like, I imagine I'm not the only one that looks at it and goes, I can't write a book. Like, what do I have to talk about? How, that sounds like a lot of extra work for me. But what you've shared with me in our previous conversations is that's not the case. So what kind of led you to your own realization about the power of sharing your story? If you don't mind, give us a little bit of like history, how you got to being where you are today.
All right, thank you very much. I'm super excited again. My name is Francis Mbunya. Originally, I'm from Cameroon. That's in Central Africa. It's kind of we shared border with Nigeria. If you're familiar with Nigeria, and also the center of Africa, in the south side and in the north side we have Ghana, and in the east we have other Sudan. So a bit about Cameroon. It's a beautiful country, just like Canada. It's French and English, so kind of switch between those two languages. But we also have about 250 other local languages. So it's a very diverse country. And so growing up from Cameroon, I had like, I call it a call to purpose. My vision has been to really get stuff better. I quite remember when I started growing up at the age of 5, I went to school. I was living in a small village. And when I listened to my teacher teach about big cities with a lot of cars and light, and when I came back home that evening, I asked my mom, what happened? Why don't we have big cities and big cars in this village? She was like, and she could not really give me a satisfactory answer. And I told her, you know what? When I grow up, I want to make sure that this place has a lot of big cities, big cars, like just what my teacher told me. And that gave me an urge to start seeing life in a different way. I quite remember why in the preschool and why in the university, I took a lot of leadership role, and I really wanted to find out what life had for me. I had to place a more bigger demand for life because I knew I had to do more, not just for myself, but for a whole community. And when I was going to school, I said, hey, I'm going to be a medical doctor. A medical doctor will have some money. I could build school. I could buy cars for everybody. But while growing up, I realized that definitely wasn't really the case. So you see, it's like a journey we go through while we hoping to acquire something. We're looking forward to get something along the line. We realize, oh, it takes more than just what we're thinking.
Yeah.
So growing up in Cameroon, most specifically, I grew up first in the French region where I started studying in French, but I kind of moved back into the English region as well, which is where my parents are originally from, and studied in English. But most often, like I would say that about 80% of the time, I don't use English. While I was growing up, I use my local language, or I use another different language. So I only get to interact with English while I was in school. But that wasn't a limitation. That was more of a reason why I really needed to move further. And when I got to the university, my dimension and my understanding of the value of life started changing. And my dream changed from becoming a medical doctor to becoming a wildlife biologist. And what motivated me to do that switch is that when I was in the second year of my university, I went to a field trip. And in this field trip, it's a national park. It's one of the it's called the UN, how do they call it? The reserve, one of these important reserve in the world. So we
Right.
had a lot of people coming in from the US, from the UK, just to look at the wildlife there. We have elephants, beautiful wildlife. So we went as a class to visit that national park. And I remember asking Aaron, he was from the UK. I said, why would you travel all the way from the UK to Cameroon just to look at a bird, just to look at an animal? What sense does it make? It really did not really make more sense to me. But when I had a conversation with him, it got me start thinking about the importance of our environment and how valuable it could be. But all along I was in that environment, I wasn't seeing that value there. So I said, okay, I also want to become a wildlife biologist to study more about these animals, to study more and to look at how I can help my environment. And in my first year of 3 years of working as a wildlife biologist and tracking gorillas and chimpanzees in the center of Africa, when you look at the tradition, the way it is set up, before you get into any forest to do any work, you need to talk to the people that are living around the forest. They have some very strong tradition. They believe that um, they have a very strong tie with nature. So, and they believe that they communicate with nature. So, if you want to go in there, you need to tell them, oh, we're going into another part of your land so that they know that there is a stranger there. And all the
Right.
time we go there, they always ask this question. Now you're spending a lot of money going after chimpanzees, going after gorilla. What about us? We don't have enough to eat. Why don't you also spend this money for us? And that also got me to another thinking to say, hey, I need to find a balance between protecting the environment and also protecting the people that are living there. And that search for knowledge took me to Europe, to Belgium specifically, where I studied a master's program on sustainable development. And my focus was on how can we balance the fact that we need to protect the environment and we also need to protect the human that is living in that environment.
Right.
Yeah. And when I started looking at that, I realized the whole center of everything was about livelihood. And the reason why man will destroy the environment is because they want to get a living out of it. They want to get timber out of it. They want to get uh, the product that's coming from it. So we started looking for options where we could find both synergy without actually losing both.
Right. So how
Yeah.
do you make it so that man and the environment are able to actually work together and provide that livelihood while still, I guess, in a way, providing the livelihood for the environment
For the
as well?
environment.
It's what's going to give them sustainability in the long run.
Yeah, so that was a big question, and that's why I decided to pursue a master's because the people couldn't get it. Why you're going to ask them, hey, we need to protect this forest, and most of them for 70 years and above has been depending on the forest for meat, for wood, and other stuff. And out of a sudden, we pronounce it a protected area, or we pronounce it this is a national park. And when it's given a status of a national park by policy, anyone going in there to carry on any activity is considered as illegal. And now we had a people that have been in an environment for a very long time suddenly become illegal. And the question was like, okay, this has been our place. How come you guys are chasing us out? It's our right to be here. But when I was working with these people, I found out one thing that and this also cut around across policy because I did a lot of policy analysis and how we could do this policy to benefit both of them. I realized that what happened in policy is that the people that are concerned most often are not engaged in the process. So a bill is passed and is implemented, and the people that are being affected are not being considered. And now the people that are passing the bill are not living in the same condition that are being in the are not living in the same condition the people that are being affected with the bees. So they don't understand exactly what is going on there. So it's easier for them to write a law and pass it. And I notice a lot of this when I travel. I used to live in a city. So to get to these villages is about 15 hours drive. And then you have to pack, and then you have to trek about 8 hours to get there. And when you get there, it's a whole different reality. And when they say, hey, when you sit out there and you pass the bee to protect the environment, not to get in there, where do we have food? There is no market here. There is no supermarket here. So that is where we go get our food. So it was kind of a very big fight, and which is the reason why I really took some time to study this. And I realized that, okay, it's about the issue of value. It's about the issue of creating value. How do we create this value in a form that the people can see that they are important and they have been considered while passing these bees? And that is just all they needed. We started working on them, looking at how we could translate their value to be accepted beyond their own community. It started making more sense for them.
Right.
Then we also look at how can we get them businesses, how can we get them livelihood that is not completely dependent on the forest. But one of the problems we had to face was the fact that they don't have money. So how do you get someone a business that do not have money?
Right.
Yeah. And that is where my business and background started from dealing with people that had no money, but we needed to get them a livelihood. We needed to get them a business. And what did we do? We said, okay, you don't have money, but you have something valuable. What do you have that you can be able to trade for someone to pay you in exchange? And we started looking, they have this great craft they made with their hands, and it cost them almost nothing to do that. And we say, hey, this stuff are valuable. We could help you market this stuff in the city. And when we did that, it brought them a lot of money. And we say, hey, you got a beautiful culture. We could expose it and get you to a cultural festival where people can pay to really see what you do. It got them a lot of money. So we started looking at this value that people have and started looking at how we could convert them to opportunities that people want to pay to get them.
Right.
And when you bring this to the business world, this is exactly what's happening in the business. A lot of people are waiting to get some good capital to start a business, but they're not focusing on the value they have that could be converted to money. They're not looking at there's so many years they've been in school, there's so many years they've put in the corporate world, and there's someone out here that's want to do the same thing they've been doing for 18 years. And just a piece of advice is going to save that person a whole lot of headache from going through the different processes and doing try by error. And from there, I understood that in real sense, we don't necessarily need money to get into a business. We need to be able to find an idea and how we can translate that idea into value and how we can translate that value into money. And when all of this is figured out, even if you don't have the money, you have a great idea. There's someone out there that will be willing to invest in your great ideas.
Right.
Yeah. So when I moved to Belgium, that's what I spent a lot of my time doing. And I wrote my first book on that, which is on Amazon, Reconciling Livelihood and Wildlife Conservation in the center of Africa. And that was in 2012. And after that, I moved to do my doctorate. I did my doctorate in development study, which was more of looking in a bigger space, access to resources. Why is it that some people have more access compared to others? Who has the right to limit or to give or to take access? Why do policy allow some certain people to have rights? Most especially, I was looking at forest management in the context of Africa, where we have a committee that manages the forest, decide what happens there, and decide where the money goes to, and decide who has this right to go here and who has the right not to go here. So I was looking at why do we give some people more right? Why do we give some people more access? And why is it that the people that should have more right are not having more right? And when you look at all of this, it's all centered down to the way institutions are built. Institutions are built most often to the disadvantage of someone that's struggling to get up there. How do we enable them to be able to take advantage or to expose it to them in a way that they can use it for their own advantage? An average man doesn't know how to write a business plan, and that is what they need to succeed. An average man doesn't know how to go online, register a business, or to maybe apply for a loan. That is what they need to succeed. But all of these are made available for them. For them to access it, they need to pay someone, a consultant, to do it for them, and they don't even have the money. So you look at, in most of the cases, all of this access is restricted, and it limits those who were supposed to have benefit from it, not to even know what to do.
Right. So on the surface, they're like, look at all the opportunities we're providing you, but there are roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and you have to be a master at understanding how all these roadblocks do to be able to convert your value into money. It's so simple, right? Like,
Yeah,
I was having a very similar type of conversation just the other day around that, and like how institutions really do make it really hard for people that don't know how to operate within them to actually play by the rules, and that's almost intentional, right? Like,
that's right.
it's weird. Then he was talking about, the gentleman was then sharing, just like, it's maybe that wasn't the initial intention, but what it does is it creates its own language.
It creates its own
And you
language.
have to learn how to speak that language, which you start off as like a minority in it because you don't know it. You just like, oh, the success is on the other side, and you have no idea how many steps and what that process is going to be like to be able to actually get through it all. Like, law is an excellent example of that. Like, a lay person would look at a legal contract and go, my lawyer says it's good. Cool. I have no idea what it just is saying.
That's right.
That way. And the same thing with putting, like, all right, to get a loan or to be able to be, get a grant or fund it or whatever, you need to then hop through all these hoops. And oh, by the way, through these hoops, you actually have to have money to start playing because you need a guide. And it's just like, wow, that's really disempowering.
That's right. That's right. And this is the way the people that were living around this forest area were trapped. Now we designed a very beautiful management plan. We call it the park management plan. And we say, hey, look, this is a beautiful document. This is what it shows that within 5 years, you're going to benefit from this. It shows that. But they don't know how to read those documents. They don't know how to interpret that. They don't know what right they have and all of that. So the point is, how do we disentangle most of this stuff? And that is where it took me to the journey of start looking at what can we do to bridge this gap. We have the people on the other side of the business that really need what these people down here have. And the people down here have a lot of value, and they don't know that someone out there needs it. So the first thing is, how do we make sure that the value down here, which the person that has it do not even know that it is valuable, how do we get it to the person that knows it? It all operates with us, a human. We all sitting and we're complaining, oh, there's no job, oh, things are difficult. But there is so much in us that we could get it to somewhere that someone needs it. The difference is that we don't know how to get it to the person that needs it. And we're going to talk a bit on that later on, which is the power of your story, and where I started talking about how you can understand how much you are worth just by writing a book. In a traditional way, a book has been seen as writing down your accomplishment or showing how talented you are. But in a way in which I teach people how to do it, it's more on how you can showcase yourself. So it's more of your CV, your resume, that you can be able to take it out there and let people see exactly how valuable they are, and put you in a position where people could now come to you as a market to buy what you have, rather than it being a point where you create a lot of value during your lifetime, then you put a book to sell that value. No, it's kind of a big difference. We're going to talk about that. But then when I look at the journey I took after writing my first book in 2012, I started noticing that by then when I was writing, I was just excited because it was part of my master thesis. But when I was and I had a German company that said, you have a good piece of work here, we're going to publish it. I said, wow, that's a lot. And I thought when I publish it, I'm going to make a lot of money. And after 2 years, I had no royalty. They're going to send me a royalty statement every year. And I see there 00, no copies have been sold. I was like, I thought authors were supposed to have some good money. So what's happening? But something happened in 2016, which was a bit kind of in the outlier and got me like, wow. So a book can be this profitable. Someone from the UN office found that book online, and they've been looking for someone to talk on that topic on wildlife and livelihood and people from Central Africa. They sent me an email. We've been looking for someone to give a talk on this topic. We have an upcoming conference. We came across your book and we think you'll be a good fit. Would you like to come over and talk about it? I was like, wow, sure. Would you like to come over? And that was a paid speech. By then I was in Belgium. So I was in the middle of my doctorate. They flew me over to Ethiopia, had some really a good reward from that conference. I wasn't expecting that. And from that conference, because I was in the panel, I met someone that said, hey, we're having something similar like this coming over in UK in 2017. Would you like to be part of it? I said, sure. And by the time the conference was happening, I was in Cameroon. I was doing my some research work there. They had to pay my flight from Cameroon to the UK, and ironically, to give a 5-minute keynote speech. That was just all. And I look at the reward from it. I was like, wow, so there is something different we need to start thinking about book writing. Not to sell copies, but it can really position you to a point where you can get a whole big value from it.
Right. So
yes, go ahead.
What I hear from that is, not necessarily writing the book isn't like isn't that immediate end to the needs. What a well-positioned book shows is your credibility and your knowledge around your topics or your passions, that somebody else can go, oh, we need this guy to talk at these events. It's the key. It's not the door, if that makes sense.
That's right. And that is also the motivation. The name of my company is called the Author Spark. So the Author Spark means that you becoming an author is a path for you to achieve something bigger. So it's not an achievement that you're an author. It's a key for you to go somewhere. And many authors miss this understanding behind book writing because, and that's why they think it's a lot of work to write a book, because now I'm done with the book. What else? So, but if you understand that it's a key to unlock something bigger, then wow, everyone should go for it. And what happened while I was giving the conference in the speaking in UK, it was just a 5-minute talk. But I got to meet great people that we have been collaborating up to today. And we have really built a larger network just because I was in a position for my voice to be heard and for someone to hear about what I was doing. And because of that exposure, I had a project that was funded by the UN in 2018, worth almost about $150,000. Just because I've been able to showcase what I'm doing. Someone said, hey, okay, I had someone that was in the panel. I said, there's a project coming up. I think what you just spoke about will be a good fit. Why don't you send in a proposal? So there's so many numerous opportunities. I began to learn about that. And after that, I went ahead and wrote my second book, which was Beyond the Comfort Zone. Now it was Get Off Your Comfort Zone.
I love it.
The reason I wrote this book, the second book, was the fact that when I started traveling internationally and speaking in other conferences, a lot of my colleague at the level of doctorate said, hey, what's the secret? What exactly are you doing? And I wrote that book, which was Get Off Your Comfort Zone to kind of illustrate some of the stuff I was doing that they weren't doing. Taking out time to write a book and was out there. Taking out time to go to some of these conferences. By then, I was also volunteering for a lot of nonprofit. So I participated in so many board meetings and conferences. I had a larger space of exposure compared to all of them. So that placed me in in a position where a lot of people could find what I do and could invite me to their space. So I wrote that book, Get Off Your Comfort Zone, which was like, if you really want more, then you need to only get to a level where you're not satisfied with what is around you. You need to move outside to really do some other stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that title in itself speaks to me so much. And I think even on our previous conversations is like the comfort zone is like it. If you're all right with everything you got and you're not like hungry for more, cool. But if the words like, oh, I wish, or I want, or I think I can, even if I think I can do more, you desire for something, be like, all of those happen outside of your comfort zone. And that, that's a big part of like my practice as well, is helping people just get out of that. It's a bit of a play, but like you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like it's where all the real great work's going to come from, is this sense of like being out there and finding that pain and just learning how to bear it well, because it's teaching you something. It wants you to do it, but everything in life has a counterbalance. So like that it's going to push you back. And if you are unwilling to push into it, well, you're never going to have the rewards. That's why you're up on stage talking while everyone else is like, what's your secret? Be like, I put myself out there. I wrote a book. I started doing talks. Like it took time, right? And that's the other part of it as well. Like so many people, maybe we're getting a little tangenty here, but this maybe apply right into the authors as well, or potential authors that are out there. Is like, this all takes time. Like
that's right.
There are no overnight successes. Overnight successes, like maybe on a good one, takes 3 years, but typically that's like 5 to 10 years of hard dedication, a lot of learning, a lot of like grinding and getting really used to being out of your comfort zone to be that air quotes overnight success.
That's right. Yeah, I do agree. It takes a lot of time. What I've been doing, I've been building this since 2006 after my bachelor. So it's not just what I'm capable of doing now. So all my experiences are building up to what I'm able to create today. So, for instance, although the Author Spot Academy I started that, it's been less than a year old, but my experiences into book writing and to what it can do and to all of that span way right by. And looking into the transition from becoming a wildlife biologist to becoming an entrepreneur and to becoming now a book coach, that has been all modeled by the output of what I want in life, by my bigger goal. Remember, I said my goal was I really needed to change the community. That's what, when I grew up, I had that passion in me. And that has not changed. When I moved into conservation, I was into pure wildlife biology. I wasn't really comfortable there. When I get to the community and the people say, what about us? And which is the reason why my calling shifted me to focus more on livelihood. And when I started exploring on how the people could get more better, it started shifting me more into, wow, for anybody to really get better, they need some money, they need some revenue. And we're talking about revenue. Who are the people that control revenue? The entrepreneurs. So if you want to talk about revenue and if you really want to change the way people think, then you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to get into the entrepreneur phase. So that motivated me to start. I launched my first nonprofit in 2012, which was just about helping young people really do more in life. And it moved me to another book. I wrote another book here. I think I got it here. The title was Walk to Your Desired Job. So Walk to Your Desired Job, I was working with a lot of universities graduates. They graduated, master's, bachelor, they had no job. And they were all frustrated. So my first organization I created was to look at how I could build them in, then release them into the job market. And I realized the problem was not about them not being educated. The problem was that they did not think about what they want before even start starting their education. So they were expecting that immediately they finish it, it's gonna figure out. And you bring this back into our space of entrepreneur. Someone said, "Oh, if I have $10,000, I'm going to start a business." You ask them, "What type of business do you want to start?" "I don't know. When I get the money, I would think." And this is the same. This is the same thing. A lot of people that are unemployed are facing. They weren't thinking about that when they were studying. They only when they're done, they say, "Oh, now I have this.
Right.
What can I do with it?" And it's a very big problem in a space of success. So when we realized that that was the problem, we created a program that we started mentoring those who got into the university in their first year. We say, "Hey, your job needs to be part of your study. You need to work with it so that when you're graduating, you know exactly what you want, and that's going to make it very easy for you."
Right.
Together, yeah.
Yeah, so helping them figure out, be like, well, are you going through the motions, or do you actually have a grand vision, or at least a mission that you want to try to solve? And if you are, is this a piece of trying to solve that, or are you doing this because somebody, a parent or some has suggested that you'd be good at that?
Yeah.
Where that's that.
Yeah.
That's what allows us to have the jobs that we do, is because people get to that and they at some point they realize, I don't like doing any of this.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to do it, right? But everything that you've done through your entire career, from being that 5-year-old boy all the way to where you are now, all these steps are continuing to move towards it, knowing that this is a grander vision. Like this is a life mission for you, because you will always have things to be working towards on that, and new things, new skills to stack up on top of it. This is right now where you're at right now, but who knows where you can be in the future because you're powered by that.
Yeah. And that has really kind of moderated the way I move in life and the achievement I kind of got in life. For instance, I've been able to travel a whole lot of countries in Asia and South Africa just because of my passion to want to be where change is happening. So in 2014, when we moved to the United States in Ohio, I moved here with my wife and my son. My son was 2 years old by then. So he's 8 years old now. So we've been here for about 6 years. And I was working out there. And I said to myself, okay, how can I make use of all what I've been learning traveling around the world? I told myself, hey, I think I'm more than just working on a corporate level as a project manager. That was good enough though, but I thought what I had was more than just being on one spot. And I started putting together my experiences that I've been able to have an interaction between businesses, between nonprofit, and between all of the sectors. And that now gave me the book which really launched me into the field of coaching. And that book was Skyrocket Your Business at Zero Cost. Skyrocket Your Business. It has been like one of those books which it means a lot to me. Why? Because it's about my journey on how I was able to help many of these people that did not even think they had a business. They did not think they have value to own and run a thriving business on their own.
Right.
And most of this stuff I did is working with different nonprofits. And the strategy we use most often is that although the nonprofit do not really have enough money, the business people have enough money, but then the nonprofit are working with the people. The business people need the people to buy from them. So the nonprofit has a bigger value that the entrepreneur definitely need. So one of the biggest strategy we did in order to create more value for the people was to strike a balance between entrepreneurs and nonprofit.
Right.
I remember one of the first projects we really ran was to train about 50 women on how to start their own businesses, and we had no money. And we went to this guy. He ran a boat, a fishing boat, and that supplied fishes to a whole lot of whole lot of supermarket in the city. And we say, hey, you can help us to train these women, and we can find a way that they can give back to your business. She said, no, I have no business working with women. I'm more interested about getting my good out there. We say, okay, this is the deal. These are 50 women. We're training them as entrepreneurs, and they're all potential marketers. If we train them, we are going to encourage them to do business with you. And with that, you're going to have more opportunity. So, wow, that makes some sense. I think I can support that cause. And then he made a donation of $5,000.
Yeah.
And now, on the part of the nonprofit, we were solving a problem. Most of these women had nothing to do. And then the men in that community were the people that really are doing every stuff in terms of finance and other stuff. So most often when the men ran out of money, they had to took up some strategy just to keep themselves safe and to make sure that the women are not asking them money. So, and this led into a lot of household violence. So that's the problem we're trying to solve. And when this company supported a nonprofit and we started training these women, now the problem went down. There were very little case of household violence from that community. And the media took notice. What's going on? Normally we have about 2-3 cases report from this area. We're not getting any stuff. And they found out that the women themselves were started making their own money. So there had to be no fight asking for money any longer. And that went viral because the media took it and they said, oh, who's behind all of this? So, oh, we got money from this company and this is what is happening. And in less than no time, that company went viral for the fact that they were doing a lot of work there. And they came back to the nonprofit I was working with saying, wait, can you duplicate this in another community? Because their name was also going out and it was adding to their legacy and to their branding. So, Skyrocket Your Business Zero Cost go to look at how you can use some of this synergy to get legacy for your business and to get into new community without really spending a lot, to build a lot of reputation. But it also gives an individual to say, hey, it's not about money, it's about an idea. These people, they wanted a business, they had no money. We had to bring up an idea. And we had to look at how we partner with the right person that had the money. And then less than no time, they were in business.
Right.
So we could all use these advantages in order to get ourselves to the next level. And when I wrote this book, which is the reason why I started the Authors Pad Academy, I used this book. I knew the power of a book in getting speeches, in getting in front of audience. So I started implementing it immediately. And many people said, hey, we want to write a book like yours. We see that you're featuring in many places. We want to write a book like yours. And I thought, oh, wow, this is not just a book. It's a tool that any business person, any entrepreneur needs in order to get themselves to where they want. If you look at podcasts, if you're an author, say, you go to any podcast, I want to talk about my book, there's 50% chance that they might give you an opportunity. You say, I want to talk about myself, there is a 5% chance that they want to give you an opportunity.
So again, that book becomes that key to open up all these doors that without it, you're not going to have, right? It just helps add on to that credibility, to add on to that story. And, I really liked the whole concept that you came up with about how do you properly pair a nonprofit and an entrepreneur or for-profit, because they really, at the end of the day, I truly believe people want the best out of life. So how do you marry that, right? You got somebody that's really good from a business standpoint, understands that he's got, they've got a skill, they can deploy that to the market, and the market will return that favorably with money. And you've got a profit that's well, we have a problem, a people problem usually, and we want to be able to solve that, but we need capital to deploy it. Oh, well, we can actually then use the people to help prop up, these companies, train them, become better, and build even bigger markets, and then they can go and repeat that again. I think that's just brilliant. You used a great word, legacy, and it's legacy for the nonprofit and for those businesses.
That's right.
It's you see for those communities, and in that instance, the women that are being helped because they're a legacy that has now changed that community, because now they're empowered. They've got skills. They're empowered in a much different way to deploy their value to the market.
You're right. That's right. Yeah. So going back to that, so when a lot of people started asking me about the book, I used to do business coaching, helping also companies on how they could implement this partnership between nonprofit and their company to get to another level of business. And most often, when I talk to many people, they say, "Oh, how did you get your book out? How did you get your book out?" Then I realized a lot of people were interested in the book more than even what I was trying to share with them. I said, "Oh, that's a hidden potential. That's what people are saying. It means that it is something that can be developed." And that is how the idea of the Author Spark Academy came in. I said, okay, instead of going straight to coach people about a business, I'm going to step back and teach them how they can write a book and use that book to scale their business, use that book to get in front of an audience and talk about their business, use that book to be able to connect to the right prospect. But then it's not just any other traditional book. It's written in a way that it acts more like a client conversion funnel, which means for a book that changes life, which is what I teach people to write, a book that changes life or a profitable book, it's a book that solves a problem, a real life problem. So it's not a book that tells my story. It's a book that's solving a real life problem. So if I put a title, Skyrocket Your Business at Zero Cost, is there someone out there looking forward to grow their business and they're really frustrated? Yeah. They want to raise their hand and say, hey, how can I do that? And
you've got your book right there.
Yeah, so there's also another book I'm working with now with another great guy out there in Vancouver. And the title of his book is Solving Problems That Matter in Business. And his concept is a lot of people are solving the wrong problem. And he used this concept of doing a research for a military base, and they wanted to create helmets that could really protect them from bombs. And that's what they wanted. That's what the leaders wanted. And then he had to do some research for the soldiers that were in the war front. And they said, no, we don't want that. How can you do something to reduce the sound, and we need to be attentive? So we don't need that. That's not going to solve our problem. But the people at the policy thought that was going to solve the problem. They thought that was a brilliant idea. But the person using it said, no, we don't need that. We're not going to wear that if you produce that. And the same stuff with a lot of businesses. Most of the time, we should be focusing on marketing and we're focusing on building. Sometimes we should be focusing on just working on one product. We're working on 10 products. And we're not looking at this process. And this process is how can you identify the problem that matter in your business and how can you solve them the right way. And this is a book that any person going through this series of challenges, grab it and read it and say, he's going to give him a call. Say, hey, I need to talk to you. I have this problem. Yeah. And I've also written another book. It's not yet in the print version, but you can get it on Amazon. It's titled $1 Million Author Paths. $1 Million Author Path is motivated by the fact that writing a book is supposed to generate you millions of dollars, but not from you selling the copies, from you knowing exactly how to position yourself in a book in a way that it gets into the hand of the right people and it gets you in front of the right audience. And it's the conversation with the right audience that you're able to generate the income you need to go to the next level of business.
Right. Yeah, that book's just part of that. It's just one of that first small step to, again, I keep using the word credibility. I don't know if that's the word that you use in your program, but it really is. Yeah. And I love how you match the credibility to a real life problem, where it's not just an opportunity for you to brag about how great you are. Yeah. It's like, hey, here's this problem that I keep seeing in the world, and I, in my own little way, this is how I've solved it. And here's you in your $1 million author's path, it's like the 9 steps to writing a book that changes lives.
Yeah.
But it's like, here's how I did it. And maybe that's going to resonate with a bunch of people. There's 7 billion people on this planet. And if you figure out that way to, we're all solving problems daily, and being able to share that with other people, it's going to resonate.
Yeah.
And you're going to be having opportunities to now trade all that experience, turn it into wisdom, and then become a teacher.
Yeah. That's correct. And that's the way to go. For instance, when you look at the steps and the way they're put together to more of create an awareness of an available solution. For instance, when we're talking about the 9 steps, the first step is first of all to identify the problem. What's the problem? What is this problem? And is it even worth it? What does it mean to me solving this problem? Because a lot of people have written the wrong book. And why do I say a lot of people have written the wrong book? For instance, if my goal as a coach, or if my goal is to help entrepreneurs to get more business, and I write a book on how I met my spouse, that's not the right book for me.
Yeah.
I've written that book, but it's not adding to what should push me out there.
Right.
So, and also, I may be helping small businesses really figure out on how to solve their finances, and I write a book on all around financial guide, or I write a book title maybe all the solution you will need on your finances. Okay, that is also a wrong book, because that is not what I'm doing. I'm focusing on definitely with small business and helping them with finances. But if I write the ultimate guide to your financial solution in business, someone knowledgeable know that there's no ultimate guide. It's going to depend on what type of business you're running and all of that. So that is also scenarios where people are writing the wrong book. They're investing their time working on titles that people that really need the problem already know that, no, this can give me the solution.
Right.
Someone that is going through a problem, for instance, if you're going through a panic attack, your dream come true is that I want this to go away. You're not interested about the history, about who was your biggest goal is this need to go away. And immediately you find someone that say, hey, I have a solution. You're not looking forward to the portfolio of that person, you're looking forward to the solution. So we also have books in different categories. There are books that are written by legends that have already stood out there. If they write on any topic people are buying, they're buying the name, they're not buying the book.
Right.
But for anyone that is starting up in business, the reason you're writing a book to show up your expertise, to establish your thought leadership, to establish your legacy, to clear the proof that people think you might not do it. But if they pick a book written by you and they read what you've been through, they say, oh, wow, this is the reason why I need this person. And more importantly, within your network, you can only talk to a few people. But if you put a book on Amazon, it's getting to the whole world. And it just helps you to get ready out there. Yeah.
Right. This has been incredible, Francis. Like, I've always enjoyed our conversations. Now we've had I guess this is technically our second one, but this has been, you've dropped so many gems. Usually I ask everyone at the end, share us that one gem. And I think we just got that the best one out of it all is like, understand the right problems that you're trying to solve. And I bet a big part of it is like, maybe I'm foreshadowing a little bit, is like validating that, because like from my previous world, which is all about tech, is like validate. And that's just a business mindset, is like, don't put in all this effort until you actually know that somebody wants, you're solving the right problem for someone. Like people write the wrong books because they probably didn't ask, or they weren't able to receive. And that having a coach like you to walk them through that allows them to write the right book the first time.
Yeah. And the timing is also very important. A lot of people spend so much time also because there's no structure. So not just about writing the right book, it's also about the structure. And we work
Right.
on a window of 90 days for you to start writing and for you to get published in 90 days. And
Wow.
yeah, so it's also, we also focus a lot on the window and focus on the couple of roadblocks in book writing. Number one, just to list of them, a lot of people, the reason they don't finish is because they self-edit. When you're writing a document and you're self-editing, you're self-critiquing yourself. And
Mhm.
immediately you start criticizing yourself, you know you can't get anywhere. So your brain
Right.
tell you, oh, you're not good enough, drop it off.
Yeah.
So that's one of the blocks. So which is something we should help a lot of our authors to get rid of. We said, hey, what you need is a first messy draft. You don't need a self-edit. Immediately you got that first messy draft. The reason we have editors out there, the reason we have proofreaders, that's the reason you don't have to do all the heavy work.
Yeah.
Other
Well,
people struggle to figure out the interior design, how my cover look like. That is not your job. The job
no.
is to pass across the message and then someone take it from there.
Yeah, and you can polish it from there. That's another great tip. Is like it's ties into one of my messages, which is just get started, right? And allow be okay. Celebrate the messy. Actually, be like you were able to overcome everything that's in front of you from like the universal scale and still move forward. That's a high five. That's a like give yourself a clap on the shoulder. And it's okay for that to be messy because now you have something to evolve, you have something to iterate from
That's
and
right.
be to move, right? And that's the power, is that iteration and improvement. And there are people to help with that
Yeah.
on all those scales. Well, Francis, I'm looking at the time. We're at 52 minutes. So
Yeah.
as I predicted before we got on the air, is that we were going to blow past the 30, 40-minute mark easy. So that I'm not shocked with at all, my friend. So is there any closing words you'd like to share with the crew?
Yeah, the key word which I would like to share, one of the key messages is that everyone is called to purpose. And the reason a lot of people out there are still figuring out what they're good at, or they're still thinking, I don't think he can do any stuff. I don't think this is the right time. It's just because they have not been able to clearly identify their purpose,
Right.
what they exactly should be doing. And because they have not done that, they're working on the wrong stuff. So you need to be able to take out some time and ask yourself a couple of few questions. Get a clarity and a confidence coach to work with you to kind of help you unleash that power in you. That is the start point. You don't need to figure it out on your own. It's
Yeah.
very difficult if you want to do it on your own. It's going to be much easier and very beneficial for you if you get someone else.
Right.
Many people look at the investment. Oh, this is expensive, but there is one thing: if it costs you nothing, it's going to get you nothing.
Yeah.
If it costs you nothing, it's going to get you nothing. And that's the I always say to a lot of entrepreneurs: you don't need a lot of money to start. You need an idea. That idea is going to grow, and that idea is going to expand. When I started with book coaching, I needed just one person that could believe in me. And when I started with that one person, when the one person saw the proof of result, he said, hey, this is true. You can do it. Then it got to the next person. The next person said, oh, wow, this is true. And out of a
Yeah.
sudden, I started talking to many people. Said, oh, I spoke to this person. I definitely did not need to really pull a loud crowd to start.
Yeah.
Start small, start expensive. The goal is to start, as you said. The goal is to start. Immediately you start, you're going to get to your dream. And don't limit yourself. The
Yeah.
only reason you're not yet producing the result is because you have not been planted in the right environment. Every seed has a potential in it. And we are created by God, and God created us with our own success in us. So what you need to succeed is in you. What you need to order to get it out is the right environment. That right environment might be a coach. That right environment might be listening to a podcast. That right environment may be listening to a LiveCast like this and getting an idea that's going to change your life. So we all can succeed, and the time is now and not tomorrow.
I think that is the perfect way to end this, is like get started. It is plant that seed today. The best day to plant a seed for a tree was yesterday. The next best day is today.
Right.
Understand, get it started, because it takes a little while for that seed to pop through the soil that you've put it in. You got to have that patience and take care of it. And next thing you know, it's going to be a huge tree, and you're going to look back and really enjoy it. So again, thank you so much, my friend. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope that this is not our last. And to everybody else, my name's Gene. This has been Peeled Back's LiveCast Conversations with series, episode 9. We're back on the air next Wednesday for number 10. So we look forward to that. All right, everyone. Have yourselves a great, great weekend.
Wow.